Good morning, my friends. Pastor Clark here with Center Church, and I want to thank you so much for spending this time together with me. We're going to get into the Word today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the powers of being in the ministry. What does it mean to be in the ministry? What is the power behind it? The need, the necessity, the work. What's the energy that you put in the ministry? We're going to talk about that. And I want to talk about how you can get into the ministry too. How you can be part of the ministry. And you can do something to change lives and change a community. So don't change this channel, crank up the volume, and let's get the broadcast on the air. My friends, back over 35 to 40 years ago, I entered into the ministry full time. I didn't realize that's what I did. I'll be frank with you. I had no idea that my life mission and mandate was going to take me down the journey of life that it had taken me. But I'm here today wanting to be able to recognize all of the challenges that I went through, all of the obstacles, the concerns, the cares, the problems, the successes. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. Hi, I'm Pastor Clark Ortiz, and thank you so much for the time that you're giving me. It means a lot to me that we're able to spend some time together. But I want to say this to you, and please hear me and hear me well. Listen to my heart when I say this. You can have a career in ministry. It's one of the greatest things I've ever had. I've been in business. I've done labor work. I've done cranial work. I've done sales. I've done all kinds of ministry and businesses. But there's nothing like being able to be in the ministry that I'm in right now, pastoring, being part of a church, being part of a fellowship where everybody's coming together and everyone plays a very intricate and important part. And you may say to yourself, Pastor, you don't know me. I'm retired. I'm 85 years old, or I'm 38 years old, and I'm a single mom or a single parent, or I have to work. If I don't work, I'm not going to have money to pay my bills. How can I be in the ministry? I'm going to tell you how you could do that. That's what this program is going to be all about. It's a new career opportunity for you, and I want to help you get there. And we're going to walk through it. I'm going to show you on this broadcast, I'm going to show you the various stages of being able to enter into a ministry. It's not difficult, but it's just as hard as it is any other career that you may enter into. So it doesn't matter what kind of career you've gone through. Every one of them have different levels of difficulty. But you know what? Ministry is, I'm telling you, more satisfying than anything else you can do. All right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look at the average person. The average person today works 8 hours a day. I've placed this so that way I can show you what happens in your 12-hour or 24-hour day. Watch this. The red represents how much time you work. You start working at around 7 o'clock in the morning. You say 7 o'clock, but I wake up, make breakfast, I get my children to school. I don't have to be in the office till 9 because I have a 9 to 5. That's right, but you're working, and everything else you're doing before it is you're actually working. You're not relaxing. You're spending good time with your children, but it's all about preparation for work, so I'm counting it as working. So you spend about 10 and a half hours working. So you actually start your day at 7 in the morning, the average person, and by about 5:30 to 6 o'clock, you're home. So you're spending about 10 and a half to 11 hours a day, Monday through Friday, just dealing with work. Then you have possibly from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, you have to yourself 4 hours of being able to spend some time with your family, helping with homework, doing dinner, watching television, the news, reading a paper, reading a book. That's your time. That's the only time that you have. And then you go to sleep, hopefully by 10 o'clock at night, let's say 10:30, you'll spend about 8 hours worth of sleep to get up once again in the morning by 7 o'clock in the morning for it to start all over again. That's what your day looks like. The average person who's working 8 hours a day, that's what their day looks like. You think that you're working only 8 hours a day, But you're really not. You're working more than that, 10 and a half hours easily. And then, of course, 8 hours of sleep and 4 hours for yourself. But something dynamic happens if you get into the right career, if you start working towards something that's meaningful, life-changing. When you enter into the ministry, all of this changes. All of this changes and takes you to another level, because now your work becomes your enjoyment. You begin to enjoy. Can you imagine spending your days doing what you like doing, what you love doing, putting into other people, spending time with families, communicating with them, sharing with them the Word of God, just spending time in studies, talking to the Lord, or whatever your gift may be, that you can spend your time doing that. And then you no longer look at your day as a work day, but your focus is to be able to do something in the ministry. And so a person who's actually working full time, let's call it like that, person who's working full time, they only have 4 hours a day to themselves. How much time do they have to give to God? How much time do they have dedicated to read the Word? How much time do they have to volunteer for the church or help out the community or pay it forward? What are they missing? But if you start focusing your efforts now to enter into a ministry, to start working for what God actually wants you to be doing, you're going to discover something different. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today on this broadcast. So on our next segment, I don't want you to change this channel. We're going to take a short break. On the next segment, you and I are going to talk calmly, face to face, and I want you to hear these words that I'm going to say about what does it take for you to begin working in the ministry and being part of a ministry, because that's the greatest career choice. And I want to entice you to be in the ministry as a career. That's right, as a career. And I'm going to show you biblical proof that God will help you. All right? So don't change this channel. Crank up the volume. Stay with me. I'm Clark Ortiz. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with me. It was March 1985 that I received a phone call from my father. I was living up in Dallas, Texas, and I was going to school studying electronic engineering technology. I know that's a big name, big words. I wanted to be a broadcast engineer, but I also wanted to be an inventor. I wanted to participate in the new community called integrated circuits, the small, tiny circuits that are right now, everything consists of it. The phone you're watching, the TV program the TV set you're watching, wherever you are is operating on this little IC circuit, integrated circuit. And so I wanted to be part of that whole revolution, computers and electricity and gaming. I wanted to be part of that community. But here I wasn't living my life right. I was working for UPS, United Postal Service. I was working overnight hours, 8 hours, 9 hours in the overnight. Then in the morning, I had to go to school and I had to study. And then after study, get home and sleep a little bit to go back to work. And that was my day. In the meantime, I was doing things that I wasn't proud of. I was drinking, I was fooling around with my friends and doing things that I shouldn't do. And it was affecting me. I was wearing myself out and I knew that I needed to change. So I asked the Lord, I said, will you help me get me out of this situation? And so it was that very same day that my father called me. He didn't know that I was going through what I was going through. And he asked me, he says, Clark, would you consider dropping out of school and helping me in the ministry? Well, that really was an answered prayer, but as stubborn as I went ahead and said, I'll think about it. But I was already convinced that I was going to do that. And so what I did is I left everything. I left the school. I left my goal of a career, of what I was after. I left studying, and I said, I'm going to go help in the ministry. So I drove back home 550 miles away, and I said, okay, what are we doing? And he began to explain to me that we were going to build TV stations and we were going to build Christian TV all over the United States. And he needed help. He had a station in Puerto Rico. He needed help with the station. Didn't have anybody to send there, anybody to help him work it. And we hadn't built it yet. And so he put me on a plane. I went to Puerto Rico and I began building a TV station. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I'll be the first person to tell you. I had no idea what I was doing. I've never built a TV station. I've barely worked at a TV station. I was 19 years old. I mean, how much experience did I really have? And when I got there, we had to build literally from the ground up. I'm talking about moving dirt, putting a building together, putting the equipment together. I had to follow instructions. I had to pray a lot. I had to ask the Lord how to do this. And something miraculous started transpiring. The Lord began to put people in my path to teach me. I didn't know that's what they were doing at the time. I thought there were people that were coming to help me. And they were helping me. But at the same time, they were teaching me. And I didn't realize that I was receiving hands-on experience firsthand on entering into the ministry. Well, after a few months, we turned the transmitter on the air and we started broadcasting on our very first Christian television station in San Juan, Puerto Rico, channel 58, WJA. To this day, that station is broadcasting and preaching the gospel. So exciting. A few months later, my brother turned on another station on the other side of the island. So we had 2 TV stations broadcasting at the same time. After 6 months of being in Puerto Rico, I came back to the United States and I said, okay, what's next? And my dad says, well, we have another station and we have one in Kansas, we have one in Corpus. So I began studying, reading books. What does it take to build? In the meantime, God started introducing me to some really, really great people. And all this stuff started happening in the ministry that I didn't realize was happening. We started doing a TV show. We started with a couple of cameras, producing the show from a trailer, and then an RV, and then my dad rented a room. And we started building a studio inside a room in San Benito, Texas. Right now it's the tax office, the county tax office. They're on Business 77 in San Benito. And lo and behold, as we were producing, we ended up with all these people that started coming to the TV show and being part of the audience of the TV show. And those individuals would ask for prayer and they'd ask for direction and we would minister to them. And we found people with various situations and concerns. And I met my wife there, we got married, and then we built a second church. We moved over to Harlingen from San Benito, still with the studio. And then a station came available in Topeka, Kansas. And my wife and I moved with now a little baby girl to Kansas. And I started a second TV station, or a third TV station actually, in Topeka, Kansas. And in there met people, ministered, and I found myself that all I was doing was ministry. I was no longer thinking about 9 to 5. I was no longer thinking about career. I was no longer thinking about who's going to sign my check. My focus was going to God and watching how God was feeding me and taking care of me and paying my bills. And then from there, came back down to the valley and then went to Corpus, built the station, back down to the valley, built the church. Continued to grow. We went from a handful of people to 100 people to 500 people to 2,000 people. And the church just continued to grow and we continued to minister. And I found myself on the pulpit. I found myself preaching to people. And what it was is that the more I was focused on changing a community for the gospel, not by preaching, but by doing some type of outreach. I was reaching my community through television. I was getting different ministers that had programs and putting them on the air, and I was showing them how to preach and how to declare the gospel and how to get things done. And next thing you know, I found myself in this ministry that my bills were getting paid for. I was able to buy a house. I was able to own a car, go on vacation, and next thing you know, I'm in a career. And here, fast forward now, 35 years later, 35 years later. My wife and I have been married 35 years. God has provided every step of the way. 40 years, almost 40 years of full-time ministry, 35 years full-time ministry with my wife, married to my wife. And we are seeing and enjoying and having the time of our lives. That's what it takes. It takes being committed to do something for the community, and God will promote you. And we'll get to the point where you mean more to Him inside the church, inside His work, than you going out and doing what you do for the business that you're working for, whatever career it may be. Hey, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit more. We're going to take a short break, and I'm going to show you how you can contact me and you can actually make yourself available to be part of the ministry. Let me show you how you can have an actual career. We'll talk right about it here in just a minute, so don't change that channel. We'll be right back. So here's how you can begin in the ministry. I pastor Center Church. It's located in the city of Pharr, and I don't know where you are in proximity to the city of Pharr, but we're right in the middle where Highway 83 and 281 meet. Right there is where we are. It's also known as Interstate 69, Interstate 2, and we're right there off of the Nolana Loop exit and on Highway 281 at Center Church. Now, here's what we have. We have a building of 120,000 square feet. It's a beautiful building. This building is completely finished out and it's ready for schools, daycare, studios, concerts, crusades. It can have a coffee shop. It has a food ministry. It has so many different outlets that we do have and other outlets that we need to have. And you may be saying, well, how can I be part of the ministry on a full-time basis? Let me tell you something. Because of the lack of opportunity or the lack of education, it's very difficult for any organization to say, here's a salary. And that's anywhere. You know, you can go to HEB and you can say, you know, I want to be a manager. Well, they're going to put you in as a stocker because you have no experience working at HEB. You might be a cashier. But then with time, you'll be promoted and you'll begin to grow. And it's the same thing in ministry. You have to start somewhere. And you may say to yourself, well, how long does it take? Well, it took Jesus 3 years. 3 years to disciple his disciples, to have them prepared to work in the ministry. So here's what I like to say. In 3 years, you can be in the ministry full time. 3 years. You can actually be in the ministry full time. But you have to say, well, I've been part of this church for 20 years. Why am I not in the ministry? The question is, are you working? Are you doing the things that Jesus did with his disciples? Are you walking with them? Are you spending every waking hour doing what you can and begin to support? When you go to college to learn something, they don't pay you. No. You spend 4 years going to college. If you go to a trade school, maybe 2 years. If you go to a junior college, you got 2 years, or you go to trade show, it could be 1 year. Regardless, you're spending every waking hour focused on educating yourself, and you end up having to pay, and you end up having to get into debt in order for you to learn. So I say this, why don't you come and volunteer at the church? Start somewhere. Just in this ministry alone, there was a dear young lady came and she became part of the church. And she started helping. She would show up every now and then to find out there's something that she can do. Her and her husband started volunteering. And then one day she says, you know what, I'm going to be there. I know you need somebody to answer the phones. I want to start volunteering. Will you let me volunteer? I said, sure. Come on over Monday and I'll train you. Well, it just happened to be that week that we found out that there was an employee that will be leaving. And then a portion of her salary, she said, since I'm leaving, will you dedicate this to hire somebody to work the front desk to be able to answer the calls? Well, I knew this dear saint was on her way to volunteer, but I knew she needed a job. And so I said, hey, how would you like to get paid for this? She was shocked. She started crying. She had no idea. I waited for her to come. I didn't tell her till she got here. And I began to say how a salary and a pay had actually opened up for her. And she was so blessed. And she's been employed ever since. And her husband now works from time to time, and he also gets paid. So little by little, opportunities open up. And it's not doesn't mean that they get paid big money. $10 an hour is what they start. Now, we pay a little bit more than minimum wage. In some cases, might be minimum wage, but most cases, more than minimum wage. But we just don't throw money at the person. They have to come and they have to be trained. They have to learn. They have to be educated. And so what I would encourage you to do is find that ministry that you want to be part of and plug into that ministry and start volunteering and get to know the dynamics and the DNA of that ministry and how can you help. And don't tell the pastor what to do. Show the pastor what you can do. Are you hearing me? Don't tell the leadership what to do. You show them what you can do and you start building that church. I've often told people, if you can bring 200 people into the church, you'll have a lifetime salary in the ministry. But you have to bring 200 new people to the church. And we're not saying 200 new people that tithe and offerings. No, if you can manage 200 people, we'll make sure that you have a lifetime salary. Now that's top of the mountain. So, but how do you start in the valley? Start volunteering. Come to the church. Say you want to help. Tell them you're willing to sweep. You're willing to clean, pick up trash, whatever it takes. And you watch. God will open up the doors for you that you can really get ahead and you can make things happen. Okay, I'm going to take a real short break, and I'm Clark Ortiz. We'll be right back. Hey, my friends, thank you so much for staying with me. Listen, this is how you can communicate with me. All the information that you see on the bottom of the screen, you see up on the top, whatever, right, left side of the screen, you're going to see information how you can communicate with me, connect with me. I'm here for you, and I want to connect with you too. So just message me in any way. Ask me any questions. See, I'm that guy that's available to you to answer any question. When I have on there text prayer, you can also text me and talk to me. You'll be chatting directly with me, and I want to talk with you too. So message me at any time. Come visit us here at Center Church this Sunday morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, early morning service, or our main event at 11 o'clock. Come be with us, bring your family, and let's watch how the Lord will do something dynamic for you. Until next time, I'm Pastor Clark. Remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. Go take your day on.
When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. Oh, 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 oh. When you're just so